Hello Star Wars fans, and welcome to episode 41 of Journey into Legends. Today we are going to be reading X-Wing The Bacta War by Michael Stackpole. The Bacta War was released in 1997, and it is the fourth book in the X-Wing series. I'm really excited to get into this one. I had a lot of fun with the previous book, and I'm excited to see how the Rogue Squadron arc will come to an end. Without further ado, let's read and review. Alright, so after the end of the previous book, when Rogue Squadron resigned from the New Republic, this book follows them as they wage their own little war against Yusan Isard and her forces. Something I didn't expect going into this book, but something that I ended up really enjoying, was this book's smaller scale. Whereas the last three books featured a lot of galactic scale battles between Isard's Empire and the New Republic, the Bacta War was a war between Isard and Rogue Squadron, and while the scale was smaller, in my opinion, this personal and more intimate fight made for a higher stakes finale. So the biggest obstacle facing Rogue Squadron in this book is mustering the forces and the firepower to free the planet Thyferra from Yusan Isard's grasp. Through buying ships and weapons on the black market, we are introduced to a few smuggler characters, the first of which is Booster Terek, the father of Mirax. Now, Booster's been mentioned countless times throughout the previous books, so it was great to finally see him pop up in person, and I really liked his character, especially his dynamic with Corran and Mirax and our other smuggler character, Talon Karrde. Now, of course, Karrde is a character that we met in the Thrawn trilogy, but it was a really nice surprise to see him show up in this book. After building up their own little private militia, Rogue Squadron sets out to liberate Thyferra, and this storyline felt like an improved version of Wedge's gamble with Thyferra in place of Coruscant. Now there's multiple things going on in this storyline. First, we have Wedge and the Rogues attacking Isard's Bacta convoys and trying to get her to pull the Lusankya away from Thyferra. Then we have Aayla and L-Skull, who returns from the Rogue Squadron comics, on the planet of Thyferra. And with them is Bror Jace, who is finally back from the dead. Anyways, the final battle of Thyferra was a really fun way to end the book. We had the Lusankya versus some captured Star Destroyers, and then we had some dogfighting also going on between Rogue Squadron and some TIE fighters. And among all this fighting, we had Arisi Delaret finally meet her end at the hands of Corran, which was a very satisfying way for her character to go out. One of the biggest plotlines of this book was the relationship between Mirax and Corran, which is something that I've been enjoying the development of throughout this series. And this book flies through their relationship. They only started dating at the end of the last book, and by the end of this one, they're already married. It moves extremely fast, but like I said before, what made this plotline so entertaining was Booster Terek. His dynamic with both Corran and Mirax was just so entertaining. The final thing I wanted to touch on is my biggest complaint about this book, and that is that the villains are extremely lackluster. Isard wasn't nearly as interesting as she was in the previous books, and Fleary Voru was such an uninteresting stand-in for Kirtan lore. It was cool seeing Arisi Delaret as a full-on villain, but other than her death at the hands of Corran, they didn't really do anything terribly interesting with her. So overall, I had a lot of fun with this book. I think it did a fairly good job at concluding this arc, and I enjoyed the smaller scale approach to the story. I'm going to give this book an 81%, putting it just below The Krytos Trap, which I think is just a more well-rounded book. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for my next review where we'll be meeting a new group of pilots in X-Wing Wraith Squadron. See ya!